Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest edition of Notre Dame Daily, brought to you by FanArch. I'm Pete Mulroy, and as a piggyback to yesterday, we know this weekend's game against Boston College is always going to be special when they get together, regardless of records, right? The only two Catholic universities in the country to still compete on the high Division I level of football in the NCAA. Both the Irish and Eagles represent two of the most respected universities in the United States. I think that's fair. From a football perspective, both teams enter on different ends of the momentum spectrum, if I could use that term this time around. But that doesn't make what's going to be the 28th meeting all time between the football programs any less meaningful. Now, while BC has dropped 7 straight since opening the season with a beatdown of Fordham, Notre Dame has reeled off 5 straight W's in impressive fashion. Wins over the likes of Boise State, playoff team from a year ago. Arkansas, going into that one, good offense. And then number 20 ranked USC a couple of weekends ago before the bye have fueled another postseason push for the Golden Domers. More on that sentiment in a moment. Conversely, lopsided losses to UConn, Clemson, and Pitt, and last weekend against number 19 Louisville helped bring an end to any hope the Eagles had of reaching a bowl game, as they're going to now finish the regular season, regardless of what happens moving forward, with a sub-500 record now at 1-7 overall with 5 to go. For BC, continuing to build upon some of the solid things they did Saturday against Louisville is the main goal, outside of winning the game, of course. BC played with much more consistency and urgency, and those of you who may have watched the game know what I'm talking about, on the road against a top 20 team, and they were in the game late. From an ND perspective, going into Chestnut Hill as a monster favorite, the line opened at minus 29.5. Last check Monday evening, it was down a point at minus 28.5. Doesn't mean a thing, right? The Gold and Blue need to take care of business, which starts with running the ball with power and efficiency and getting after the opposition's quarterback when on defense. Okay? Boom, boom. It's nice to have CJ Carr. Like to see him get back to where he was a couple of weeks ago with moving that ball down the field. But when you're running the way Notre Dame is running the football and blocking the way they have been up front with that front five, keep with it. Do that, and a 6th straight victory and 10th straight over the rival Eagles will very much be in the cards as they meet for the first time since 2022. And you talk about what Notre Dame has remaining in the final month of the regular season, which I guess officially hits Saturday, November 1st. Notre Dame knows the mission. Win, and you're more than likely in the college football playoff, that is. Look, we know Notre Dame is going to be playing meaningful football one way or another come December, January. And while the hope is that that meaningful football comes in the form of the CFP, it's a fairly safe bet to say the Irish are going to go to a marquee bowl if they come up short in their quest for a 2nd straight trip to the 12-team playoffs. And of course, it starts Saturday in Chestnut Hill when the calendar flips to November. A win over the Eagles will then springboard the Gold and Blue into its final 4 games of the season. As a refresher, November 8th in South Bend, again currently undefeated Navy. That comes after this week's game with BC. Then you go to Pitt, November 15th, to face a Panther team that's physical and playing a good brand of football. You're back home November 22nd against Syracuse. Again, no Steve Angeli. And a season-ending trip to Palo Alto on November 29th for a date with the Stanford Cardinals. To me, I think it's incredibly reasonable to this point to believe that a 10-2 Notre Dame team on a 10-game win streak would be one of the 12 teams included in the playoffs. If that happens, it'll mean that the only blemishes on the Notre Dame schedule came during their first 2 contests of the season to a 10th-ranked Miami team, road loss by 3, and the now number 3 ranked team in the country in Texas A&M, home loss by 1. It would also mean that the Irish played incredible football from the moment of that last loss, giving credence to the idea that they are, in fact, one of the best teams in America. Is the task easy? Of course not. It wasn't last year when Notre Dame rattled off 13 straight wins to reach the CFP after a shocking Week 2 home loss to Northern Illinois. And it won't be easy now. But the challenge is clear. The mission is clear. Take care of business, and you should earn your way back into the tournament. Another stumble, however, means a bowl game. A nice one, sure, but not a trip to the college football playoff. And again, meeting with BC in Chestnut Hill this weekend. It's sort of a different looking Boston College team than it was a couple of weeks ago, with a bit different feel, specifically offensively. When the season began for Boston College, former Alabama quarterback Dylan Lonergan was the guy under center. And while the wins obviously did not add up, minus the opener where Lonergan threw for 268 and 4 scores, the BC signal caller eclipsed the 300-yard mark in 2 of the next 5 games. That's the good. Struggles, however, would set in as Lonergan failed to get the Eagles' passing game going. You had losses to Cal, Pitt, and Clemson, with the Pitt and the Clemson games being absolute blowouts, where BC in stretches, we're talking long stretches, looked like they didn't even belong. As a result, head coach Bill O'Brien made a switch at the position, turning to Grayson James prior to BC's 38-23 loss to UConn back on October 18th. The senior from Texas, look, the kid's played well. He would go on to start the following game, a loss to, of course, last weekend, then number 19 Louisville. And while the results, again, from a win perspective, haven't been there since James has taken over, the BC offense, particularly this past weekend, and I'll say it again for those who watched the game know exactly what I'm talking about, has looked better. The midseason change from Lonergan, who won the QB1 job in camp, to James is expected to remain this weekend when the Irish come to Chestnut Hill. James is the type of quarterback now who does possess good pocket awareness, something that definitely stood out last weekend against Louisville despite throwing 2 interceptions in the loss. 6'3", 218, he gives the Eagles good size and presence behind center. And Bill O'Brien, look, he wanted a spark at the position, and he's given the keys to the offense to a guy who serves as a reliable veteran who makes good decisions. It's tough when you don't get a lot of help offensively. More on that in a second. But overall, Lonergan started the season well, but then there was a huge rut, as I said. Cal, Pitt, and Clemson losses, all by double figures. You make the switch, and you do get improved results, not in the win column, which is the goal, but James has acquitted himself beyond well. He does, however, struggle to get the ball downfield. So the Irish secondary, for me, namely Leonard Moore, Don Schuler, Christian Gray, may find themselves with opportunities to make some plays on the football field come Saturday. You're going to have opportunities on both sides of the ball, be it Carr through the air with that great Notre Dame rushing attack led by the front 5, and then the two-headed monster of Love and Price. But defensively, you're going to have opportunities to get pressure, cause some turnovers. Leonard Moore, Don Schuler, Christian Gray, who's got a knack for the turnover, as frustrating as I know people like to get with him. I love the kid. You're going to have opportunities if you do your job this weekend, even with this expected to be the 3rd straight start under center for Boston College for the senior Grayson James. And speaking of defense, the Irish bunch has been a heck of a lot better the past month plus. A major reason why Notre Dame has been able to reel off 5 straight wins. This weekend, the Irish see a BC offense that has undoubtedly had its fair share of struggles. We talked about the good with James that switched the last couple of weeks. Well, entering this game, the Eagles ranked 75th in the nation in points per game at just under 27, 96 in total yards per game at a shade under 350 at 349.3, and 125th in red zone touchdown efficiency. And while the passing offense has been a top 30 unit from a yards per game perspective, thanks to those solid early performances from Lonergan, the run game for Boston College has been virtually non-existent. I mean, you talk about 2 offenses that are completely opposed to one another from a run game perspective. It's Notre Dame and Boston College. Currently 125th in the country in that category. BC barely averages over 100 yards per game on the ground at 102.1. For the Notre Dame defense, continuing to play with that aggressive style this weekend, one that's produced sacks and turnovers at an elevated clip the past 5 games from where we were the first 2, is going to be essential in extending the current win streak to 6. Boubacar Traore, KVA, Drake Bowen on that side of the ball playing well. Opportunities to create havoc and then force turnovers on the back end are going to be there. Unfortunately, the Irish will be, as we discovered yesterday, without stud defensive lineman Gabe Rubio again. Going to miss his 2nd straight game with a left elbow injury. Jordan Botello, concussion. Devontae Smith still dealing with the right calf, currently listed as questionable. So that's going to be something to track as the week progresses. But look, the Freeman-Ash-Mickens defense knows what it needs to do this weekend. Given the recent play, there should be little doubt that they can't get the job done, especially with what they've shown they're able to do. Get pressure on that quarterback, blow up the backfield. You can cause fumbles. You can create bad throws, errant throws, get guys on the move, forcing them to step up. And then you got a strong group on the 2nd and the 3rd levels of that defense. I think this is a great opportunity once again for this Notre Dame defense to show just how good it is against a Boston College offense and Boston College team that has been reeling. With that, have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. We're getting closer and closer to the home stretch. We're in the final stretch of getting into the postseason. November right around the corner. I'll talk to you guys and girls tomorrow. As always, go Irish.